Hello everybody and welcome back. In this lecture we're going to go ahead and light our scene. Now there are several ways in which you can do this, and just like we've added many different primitive types when we're adding a mesh object, but this time we can add in with Shift and A light. And you can see there are four main types. There's a point light source, a sun, a spot and an area. So an area would be like a window. You can actually set the size of the area. It's as if light's coming in through a set size rectangle. A spotlight is just like it sounds. It is a spotlight. It will have a cone and it will shine on a surface. And often you end up with a bright spot on any surface that the light is hitting. The sun lamp is a constant direction light, as it says there in the description itself. This means that all light is coming in from one direction, and it is assumed that all of that light is parallel, which means that our shadows that form will not converge together or diverge apart. When we start playing with the lights in a moment, you'll see that coming into effect. And a point light source is just like the one we've got in our building here. It's an omnidirectional light, so light radiates in all directions from it, and that can cause some really interesting effects. Now, in order to see the lighting, we're going to have to go to rendered mode. So the final and fourth option on the toolbar at the top of the 3D window here, or of course we could press the Z key and it brings up this radial menu. And if you're really quick, you can just go Z and lift the mouse up and it will automatically switch. There we go. So much like mesh objects, we can just duplicate the lamp that's already in here. Now I'm going to use a linked duplicate. So let's go ahead, Alt and D, and press the X key to move it along the X-axis. And there we go, we have two lights in here. Now we can alter what a light's properties are simply by going to the properties panel, going down to the light option, and it will be a light bulb, and we can change its properties. We can change the color of it, so we can go and make it an orange color, so it's at night time or something along those lines. We can change the power, so how bright it is. If I set this at 50,000 watts, it's going to be very bright. If I set it at 50, it's going to be quite dim. And depending on how you're using the lighting, you can use it for aesthetics, or you can use it to actually light your scene. And by changing the power, you can change its effect on the scene around it. If I change these to sun lamps, we get a direction from them, and you'll notice it doesn't actually matter where they are. They're inside the building, but the sun lamps themselves are casting light on the roof. So all the light is coming down. Now we cannot see these parallel shadows that I was talking about. Let's go ahead and add in a mesh object that's just a plane, and I'm going to scale it up. So I'm pressing S straight away as it's already selected by 100. And there we go. We've got a very bright plane. So I'm going to go ahead and add a material to it and make it, let's say, a green, but I'm going to make it a darker green. There we go. And it's still very bright at the moment, but the reason for that is because we've got two suns. And if we had two suns in real life, it would also be quite bright. So I'm going to go ahead and select one of mine. And with it set as a strength of 50, that's actually quite bright for a sun lamp. I'm going to turn that down. Now we can see what's going on. And we can also rotate these independently from one another. In fact, I'm going to delete the other lamp that I have there and go and select my current sun lamp, lift it out of the way, and let's have a look. This is one of the objects that the trackball rotation is very useful for. So if I press the R key twice, I can move around the sun lamp very easily and point it in different areas. And we can see, as I put this here, the sun is now coming in. It's casting a shadow. I can turn the brightness up for a moment, and we've got these parallel lines coming from the shadows that are being created. Really strong shadows, as the light is coming in from one individual direction. Now if I change this back to point and put it back inside our building, and I'll do that by whizzing around, I can show you how the light will diverge when we put it inside. Let's have a look from the top again. So we've got a doorway here, and we're going to turn up the brightness of this lamp until the light starts coming out, and look at that. That's a great example of the light itself is diverging. And if I move it to the center and nearer to the door, we can see that it will get a wider and wider beam from it, which is pretty awesome because that's another way you can go and create more spotlight effects with your lighting. So there's lots of things that you can play with when it comes to lighting, and lighting does behave differently when you're using cycles compared to Eevee. One of the things that you can do with Eevee is turn off whether or not a light will cast shadows. Oh, and whilst we're here, can you see the Z fighting that's happening with the coplanar face? I don't like the look of that. I'm going to grab the ground plane. I'm going to adjust its location in our world by -0.1. Then it will be slightly below, and all of our objects will be slightly floating, but I will let that slide for the moment. Okay, so now it's time for you to play with lighting your scene. If you've got an open building like this, try putting some point lights in the top. Perhaps play with a sun lamp and try and get some long shadows. What about here? Perhaps we can add some lights so that Suzanne's head is lit up, but the rest of the building is in darkness. And our castle here. Why don't you add some point lamps to the top of these castlements? And I'll leave that up to you to play around with the lighting and just see what different types of effects you get. And do try different coloured lights. You'll be amazed at the effects you can achieve. Pause the video now and give that a go. Hello everybody and welcome back. Now we haven't covered any lighting theory, but that is something we can go ahead and cover later on. I'm going to just go around my scene and try and make it look a little bit better than it currently does. Now one of the things you may want to consider is making your objects a bit further apart so that light from one scene is not affecting the others. I'm not going to worry about that too much at the moment for mine though. I'm going to move along these lamps and I'm going to do a linked duplicate. I'm going to put 3 lamps inside of my building here. They're kind of in the wrong place. They should be up high. So I'm going to go G, Z and lift them all up high. And there we go. We've now got lighting coming in from this side. In fact, this is lighting up our pyramid. I quite like the lighting that's on there. But I'm going to shift my pyramid elsewhere in the scene. I'm going to make sure my ground plane is not selectable. And to get to that with it selected, I'm going to go to the object properties, go to visibility and turn off selectable. Then I can go and view things from the top. I can grab my pyramid and let's pop it over here and scale it up a little. Now my origin is at the bottom, so it should scale up pretty well. Okay, so with the pyramid over there, let's go ahead and add in a light and a spotlight. Let's go and whiz around to the top view, pull the spotlight out of where it was there, go around to the side view, and look, it's in the ground, so let's lift it up. I'm going to pop it directly above for the moment, and let's go ahead and just turn the power up. And we're going to have to turn it up quite a bit because this is quite a large object at this point in time. If I go ahead and select these stairs, they're 14 meters high. So we're going to have a powerful spotlight. And I want a couple of spotlights, but I want them the same as each other as well. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to look at this from the top, press Alt and D once again to have a duplicate, and I'm going to move it to the other side. Now I can press the R key twice and use the trackball to aim quite easily, and you could do this as well by just rotating from a particular angle and try and point it at Suzanne, but I like the way that that's worked out. Now of course you can play with some of the other settings here. One of the ones that you might want to play with is the radius. If we turn this up, let's set it at 10 meters, you notice that the reflection in her eyes, suddenly these jewels that we've added there are a bit shinier. Let's try 20 meters instead. How we kind of lose that again. So there is a sweet spot when it comes to manipulating lights, especially in Eevee. Some of these options, when we have a look at cycles, will disappear. And it's just how the different rendering engines treat lights. And because they're linked, I don't have to mess around with the settings for this other object. Nice. Now I encourage you guys to play with different lights and their colors, so let's go ahead and do this for the final castle just here. So I'm going to do a couple of things. I'm going to use the shift and right mouse button to place my 3D cursor. Then I can come in and add a light, a point light. I'm going to make these ones quite a deep reddy orange color. I'm going to leave that as it is, but maybe turn up the brightness just a little. Now I'm going to look at this from the top and use linked duplicates to place them in appropriate places. And these two that are floating up high, shift select both of them and move them down. And again, with snapping turned on, this is quite easy to put them in a good location. Okay, so we've got the basic lights lit up, but how about we light up the rest of this? Let's go ahead and add in an area lamp. Look at this from the top. We can move it to one side. Let's see which way it's facing. Okay, so it's got a direction to it. We can rotate it around the y-axis by 90 and maybe make it bigger. So I'm just scaling that up. Now I don't see any lighting effects just yet, so let's turn up the power. There we go. We're starting to see a bit of light, and it's obviously affecting the ground as well. So that may be something you want to keep an eye out for. Let's play with the colors. Let's try a dark blue. Yeah, that looks pretty neat. Blue and orange often go well together. Let's duplicate that, but this time with Shift and D and put it on the other side and rotate it around. It doesn't have to be exactly 90 degrees or exactly opposite, just playing around here. And let's change this to an orange again. Blue and orange go together really well. Now let's have a look at this. Look at that. The lighting has changed the look of this quite dramatically. And when we explore lighting later on, you will see how you light objects is incredibly powerful and can change the feel of an object completely. And since we've got these lights set up, let's play. Let's set it as a green and, I don't know, a dark pink colour. Suddenly you've got something mysterious. That's pretty cool. This could be the evil wizard's castle. It's entirely up to you how you tell your stories through your art. Awesome, so I'm all done there. I've lit my 3 scenes. I think that Suzanne and the Mayan pyramid itself could probably be lit a little more. Perhaps I'll play with that as we start looking at our final renders and see what we end up with. But for the moment, that looks pretty awesome. Take a screenshot of the work that you have done so far and share it with me so I can see how you're getting on. And I'll see you all in the next lecture.